We'll go ahead and get started with the program today. On behalf of the City of Missouri, let me say thank you for joining us today for our February Leadership Luncheon. My name is Ed Broussard. I'm City Manager of Missouri City. And it's my honor to be here and to be with y'all as part of this. Our Leadership Luncheons are an opportunity to showcase the best of what's going on here in Missouri City. It's one to where the growth and development here has been incredible, as y'all well know. We have had incredible things that have happened here in this community, and we love each month to get together and showcase that and talk about what's coming up, what has happened, and let you, as far as those who are living here, those who are interested in this community and its well-being, understand and see just some of the great things that happen here in Missouri City. It's my pleasure also to introduce to you some of our distinguished guests that we have with us today. We have Mayor Alan Owen, Mayor Pro Tem Jerry Wyatt, Councilmembers Floyd Emery, and Councilmember Robin Ellicott. We also have two other distinguished gentlemen with us. We have with us State Representative Ron Reynolds and Doc Holliday here on behalf of Congressman Al Green's office. Today's story is a great example of some of the incredible things that are happening here in Missouri City. It's one to where we have an opportunity to talk about and learn more about Methodist Hospital, who is making an investment here in Missouri City and understands the need for medical care that has been asked for. It's one of the things when we have different community groups, and as we went through the bond committee and some of the other things, some of the things that we kept hearing coming up over and over again was, what can we do to see improved medical care here in Missouri City? What are some of the further opportunities to advance medical care here? You have with it, of course, people who are looking for medical care, as well as the number of medical professionals that live here in Missouri City and are part of this community, looking for opportunities to work here at home, to stay local. And Methodist has come and been able to step in that void, being able to put an investment into this community that they'll talk about as far as what they're doing, both before Benton County and here in Missouri City specifically. It's one where we thank you, Methodist Hospital, for your commitment to Missouri City and for just what you are doing to advance medical care for our community. We have Chris Siebenthaler, who will be as far as our speaker today. Chris is the Chief Executive Officer for Houston Methodist Sugar Land Hospital. He has been working with Houston Methodist Hospital for the past 13 years, and specifically with the Houston Methodist Sugar Land Hospital campus for the past 7. And so with that, Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you.
So Cliff said, can you all hear me okay? Cliff promised me that if I just put it right here in my pocket, that y'all would hear me. So if it doesn't work, it's going to be Cliff's fault right there in the back of the room. Well, thanks, Ed. I appreciate the introduction. Before I get started, I did want to say that one of our hospital directors, he's the director over imaging, a little bit of echo there, and director over imaging, Robin Ellicott is one of the council members here. So Robin, thank you for being here. I will say that I did talk with Mayor Owen and Representative Reynolds about seeing if we could trade Robin to the state or to the city for a player to be named later. So I'm certainly open to negotiations on that a little bit later if you want to work something out. Representative Reynolds did make a comment, though, that he didn't think he could afford Robin, and we might throw some money in to make that deal happen. So, Robin, remember I told you payback is... Okay, all right. Yeah, well, so do we, so we're kind of in the same boat. So I thank you all for letting me be here today. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about what's happening at Methodist, and in particular, what's happening in Missouri City. We've long wanted to kind of dip our toe into the Missouri City market, and we felt that this was the best opportunity to do so, is to kind of put our best foot forward, so to speak, as it relates to emergency medicine. But this is the first step. There are other things that we plan to do in the community, and we're working through some of those things right now. Some within Methodist, and some possibly working with outside development companies. So this is just really the first step, Mr. Owens. Let's talk about what's been going on and why are we growing. So first off, what's the business case? That's what we all want to look at, is what's the business case for growth. First off, we're near capacity at Houston Methodist Sugar Land in our medical, surgical, and in our critical care areas. For the past year and a half, we've been upwards of around 90% occupancy, which from a hospital perspective means we're full a lot. Now, we might be a little less full in certain other areas of the hospital. For instance, labor and delivery or women's services. Typically, we get very busy between about Tuesday and Thursday, and then the rest of the weekend, things slow down a little bit in that area. So occupancy may drop down there. But the rest of the hospital is pretty busy. And it's busy for a lot of reasons, one of which is continued population growth, continued demand for services locally versus having to go into Houston for that care. And then finally, if you look at out-migration, there's currently still 37% of folks who have to be admitted to a hospital who live in our primary service area that still go into Houston to be treated. That's still a pretty significant number. So when you look at all the growth in Fort Bend County from a healthcare standpoint, and it's not just Methodist, you'll see some of our competitors as well building facilities and growing their services. It's because still a very large percentage of people end up going into Houston for medical care. And mobility kind of impacts that as well. You have the Fort Bend Toll Road just down the street. That promotes mobility back into the Texas Medical Center. So there's a lot of ways to make it work. Methodist is committed to the community, and especially in Missouri City, our first step is going to be with our emergency department. This is our primary service area. We serve people and are really kind of the market leader going all the way down to Wharton, which sometimes surprises people. But if you look at what our reach is, it actually goes almost all the way over towards Brazoria and further south west kind of into the Wharton area. So Wharton in particular became part of our primary service area just this past year. So things are changing. Dynamics are changing in the marketplace as physicians and hospitals continue to align with each other. What that alignment looks like and what's ultimately will drive better patient care, I think, for people across Fort Bend County and over even into Wharton and Brazoria County. In terms of population, no surprise to this group, and this isn't specific to just Missouri City, but rather if you look at our primary service area, which was on that map right before this slide, we're going to see about a 10% growth in population in that primary service area from 2013 to 2018. I think it'll probably end up being a little bit more in terms of that compounded annual growth rate, but we're guessing it's going to be about 10% over the next 5 years. What is interesting is that if you look at the biggest segment of that population, it's still in those categories. If you look at, I can't read this, there might be a pointer. If you look at that 65 plus category, you'll notice that bar is the largest bar there. That shows you that from a percentage growth standpoint, the fastest growing segment of our primary service area is Medicare age. Now, it's the smallest segment of our population, but it's the fastest growing segment of our population. So what does that mean? That means higher utilization of healthcare services. So another factor that promotes growth for healthcare in Fort Bend County. Now, from a demographic standpoint, and I was talking with Councilman Wyatt a little bit ago about this, and we didn't get into any sort of lengthy healthcare reform discussion, and please don't make me do that today. But I will tell you that we do see, over these next 5 years, we do see changes in market dynamics driven by the Affordable Care Act. In particular, seeing people who are currently covered by insurance through their employer that may move from employer-sponsored coverage into an exchange model, i.e. through the Affordable Care Act. We also think we'll see, to some degree, people who are not currently insured, and these are people that we need to get insured, they need to have access, better access to health care, moving from an uninsured or underinsured model into a more fully insured model. So as you know, depending on what you're listening to out there in the marketplace, a lot of different things going on as it relates to the Affordable Care Act, who has access to care, who will continue to have access to care, who potentially has been impacted in terms of their coverage. So I won't get into that, but needless to say, if you look at the slide behind me, you'll see that we do project over these next 5 years people moving into an exchange model, i.e. being covered through a federal or state plan. Does that make sense to everybody? So we do see that happening, but when you look at the demographics in our market, the fact that the Medicare age is the smallest segment of our population, as you can see on the chart, 67% or 2/3 of our primary service area is still in that what we'll call commercially insured category. No way you're going to read this. This may be an eye test. There's a couple of eye tests in here, so I won't be testing you. You'll be failing because I can't read it. What I can tell you is on that top line, I found the pointer. Isn't that exciting? If you look at that top line, Houston Methodist Sugar Land back in 2006. I started September or so, 2006. We were about 9% of the marketplace. In other words, if you look at that primary service area, patients about 9% of the time were coming to our facility. It was our intent with our growth, our expansion in 2008, to build that market share. And that market share has kind of flipped with other competitors in the marketplace, and we're no longer 9% of the market. If you go to actually 2013, which isn't on this slide, we're up to over 22% of the market now. So even though we've more than doubled our market share, we've still seen outmigration stay at close to almost 40%, which again helps support the need to grow. Oh boy, that is for sure an eye test. Lena's the Director of Business Development and Marketing in our hospital. Some of y'all probably know her here in the room. But Lena and I and her team, they put together a video for me back in 2007. And on that video, it talked about what our focus areas were going to be at Methodist in Fort Bend County. And it was kind of interesting to walk through that and look at what types of services were we going to provide, things like open heart surgery, things like neurosurgery, cancer care, whether it's medical or oncologic surgery. Whatever it is, we went back and we looked at that video, and Lena, as she pointed out, because she's my business development person, she's like, yeah, we nailed that, which is what I want my business development person to say. So ultimately, what does that mean? Well, we're growing to meet the demands of Fort Bend County, and we've continued to specifically target growth in certain areas because of what the community needs are. That's what that slide showed. I wanted to drill down a little bit more because we don't typically look at market share from the standpoint of a specific city or a specific zip code, but I found this to be really interesting. So you remember that 22% I just talked about in terms of our market share? If you look at that first blue bar, you'll see that it's 22%. So that's our market share. However, in the 77459 zip code, we're actually at 32% of the market. So from the standpoint of, you know, what has Missouri City chosen? Well, they've chosen to go to Methodist, and that was part of the reason why we wanted to grow, as we saw that there was a significant population of people living in Missouri City who wanted to go into Sugar Land for their care, and we wanted to try to see what we could do to begin keeping that care a little bit closer to home. Now, from a healthcare reform standpoint, it's going to become increasingly difficult from a financing standpoint. In terms of where we grow, how we grow, what level of care we provide in various communities away from our hospital campus. But we're going to continue to find opportunities to reach out into specific communities so that we can provide support where the population growth is occurring. That's very important to us. Healthcare is very local. It's very close to where you live, and that's our plan. If you look at the 77489 zip code, it's just under 22% at 21.8%. And our competitors in the marketplace, what's interesting is that depending on the zip code, you'll notice that 77489, still a significant portion are going into Houston, whether it's Memorial Hermann, St. Luke's Medical Center, Methodist in the Medical Center, or Memorial Hermann. So there's still quite a bit of folks heading up and probably on the Fort Bend Toll Road into the medical center for care. So when you look at discharges, when we talk about market share, we talk about how many days overall do patients stay in the hospital cumulatively. When we look at just discharge or admissions, people who physically are admitted into a hospital, you'll notice that for our primary service area, those patients are coming from these different communities. So it's kind of interesting to look at when we talk about our service area. 21% of those admissions are coming from Sugar Land, another 17% coming from Missouri City. 21% are actually kind of in Houston zip codes on the north side of our primary service area, and 27% in the Richmond-Rosenberg area, with Stafford being a little bit of a percentage there, I think 6%. Now, if you look at actual discharges at Methodist Sugar Land, you'll notice that 35% of our patients come from Sugar Land, versus if you look at the overall primary service area, it's 21%. If you look at Missouri City, it's 21% of our discharges. So 21% of our inpatients that come into our hospital actually come from Missouri City. So it's a significant portion of our business in the hospital. What's also interesting is that if you further break that down between patients who come in through the emergency department versus patients who are either admitted, come in for outpatient testing, physical therapy, et cetera, you'll notice that it's roughly almost 50 patients a day that are on our campus seeking care that live in Missouri City. So that's pretty significant when you think about just the number of people every day on our campus needing medical care, with the emergency department being about 17 patients per day. So that, when we talk about the business case for growth in Missouri City, what drove a lot of that discussion was that number right there, that currently we're seeing about 17 patients per day coming out of those two zip codes. Well, I guarantee you there's a lot more than 17 people a day going to emergency departments throughout the greater Houston area. And so what people are deciding to do, because they might feel it's more convenient or it's closer, or maybe they have a different relationship, they might be going up that Fort Bend toll road for care. That's why we're building our emergency department basically right in between Riverstone and Sienna, right across from Lake Olympia. It'll be super convenient for folks to seek medical care there locally at an emergency center that is going to provide the same staffing, the same level of care that you're going to find right down the hall in our hospital. It's the same level of care. So our goals will be to take care of you all here just as we do on our campus in Sugar Land. Just plain and simple. If you need care beyond that, let's say you come into the emergency department here, the emergency care center here in Missouri City, and you need to be hospitalized. Well, we're going to make sure that that gets expedited, that you're able to be admitted into the hospital. You won't have to go back through the emergency department on the main campus. You'll just go right into the hospital. That's our goal. So when we look at that, you're only 7 miles away from a hospital that provides everything from maternity care all the way to brain surgery. 7 miles down the road. So if you need care here locally, we'll be able to take care of you just a short 7 miles down the road. Now, on the mobility side of that, that 7 miles can sometimes be 30 minutes. But that ambulance might be able to get through that 7 miles a little quicker than you could, I'm guessing. So what are we doing? Well, we're spending $131 million over the next several years, phased in, beginning, actually the very first project is in July of this year. So that freestanding emergency center is going to open July 1st. I'm hoping it might be a little sooner than that, but I don't want to get too far off base with our construction folks. It'll be a 10-bed unit, so the ability for us to take care of patient volume should be, frankly, much greater than what I think the need will be out here. So 10 beds will more than take care of what we think the community will need, at least for the foreseeable future. We're also planning to relocate our sports medicine, orthopedic practice, and all the physical occupational therapy that we provide currently on Brook Street and Highway 6 in Sugar Land. We're going to move that to the corner of Sweetwater and Highway 59. It'll be nice to start building on that campus so that people don't continue to call me and say, can't you just sell me a piece of that land? I tell you, for the last 7 years, probably the phone call I get most frequently from someone I don't know in the community is, just sell me a little piece of that land, because nothing like location, location, location. In terms of our heart center, we currently have 3 cardiac cath labs in the original building. I was talking to someone earlier who was talking about, well, I was a volunteer at your hospital back in probably the late 90s, early 2000 area, and I want to say it was in the double digits in terms of beds. We probably had about 22 beds at that time, didn't we? And so if you look at where we are now, we're approximately 240 beds in our campus. And our heart program's grown from 1 cardiac cath lab 10 years ago to 3 cath labs now. We're going to be adding a 4th by the middle of next year, and then consolidating all of our heart services in one building. Because currently we have the cath labs in the original building, which is about 6 minutes away from our emergency department. So patients coming in with a heart attack, it takes us about 6 minutes to take them from the emergency department up to the cath lab if they need an intervention. The time it currently takes us to do an intervention on a patient, an angioplasty basically, the time it takes us currently to do that is right around 60 minutes, which is 30 minutes below the national standard of 90 minutes. So us moving the cath labs from 6 minutes, an elevator ride up to the 2nd floor and down the hall, to an area immediately adjacent to the emergency department on our campus will shave off another 5 or 6 minutes from that total time. And as we say in healthcare, time is muscle when it relates to the heart. So the quicker we can get people into that cath lab and do an intervention, the better the outcomes are for that patient. We also plan to, and this is kind of the big piece of this, add a new patient bed tower beginning of 2016. We'll be breaking ground on that this summer. That's going to give us the capacity to add an additional 104 beds. That bed breakdown will be 84 medical surgical beds and 20 ICU beds. We currently have 20 critical care beds on the main 2nd floor of the main building. This will give us an opportunity to really kind of split our medical and our surgical critical care. We'll leave the surgical critical care in our existing 20-bed unit, and the new unit will be dedicated to medical patients, medical critical care patients. So patients who might have some sort of chronic pulmonary issue, patients who might be dealing with cancer-related issues, they would be more in that unit. So we're going to split things up a little bit, which provides us with some much-needed capacity. That's probably the area that we get most constrained is in our critical care area. And then finally, once we move the cath labs from the 2nd floor and move them into our heart center behind the emergency department, it'll give us an opportunity to grow our women's services programs. But currently, women's services are dedicated to the 3rd floor of our original hospital building, and so it's our plan to double the capacity for obstetrics, gynecology, and that will happen. We'll start it sometime in the middle of next year, and hopefully have that redone by the middle of 2016. So those are the major expansion items. A couple other things that are going on is that we are growing our primary care and primary care sports medicine practice around the Fort Bend community. We currently have a primary care practice here in Missouri City. We're planning to grow that over the next couple of months, and we are in talks with a third-party developer to develop maybe a 15,000 to 20,000 square foot building where we'll put additional primary care physicians, sports medicine physicians, likely physical and occupational therapy, and possibly imaging, but I don't want to get Robin's hopes up back there. See, he just looked up. He was reading his iPhone, and when I said imaging, he looked up from his iPhone. So you're busted. Just remember, you got to go back to work with me, so we'll be talking. Sleeping when the boss is talking. I don't like that. Of course, Jerry's next to him, and Jerry's over there going, I warned you, man. I warned you. But this is something that is, we are close to getting the property piece done. And I'm not close enough to be able to tell you exactly. You probably already know, but we're working with a third-party developer on a piece of land right now. We don't want to own the land. We just want to lease out the building primarily to ourselves. But that's coming. We're also looking at a piece of land over in Richmond, multi-specialty more than likely, and that'll be located on the Grand Parkway. So we're looking to reach out to the community more, get physicians and diagnostic and therapeutic care a little bit closer to where people live. Really the only point of this slide is that as we get up to roughly 340 beds over the next few years, What you're going to see here is that by about this timeline, 2019, we think that we're going to be planning for our next set of expansion. If you look at the population growth, if you look at the out-migration, if you look at demand for services that people want in Fort Bend County, even though we're going through this planning process, development process now, we actually see continued growth in the future. And that's continued growth despite what you all might be hearing impacting healthcare as it relates to the Affordable Care Act. That doesn't mean hospitals aren't still going to grow. If anything, what we're going to see, hopefully, is a little bit better preventative care, a little bit better planning, making people more accountable for their own care. Hopefully we'll see that over the next few years. This is the stacking diagram. It wouldn't be a discussion about a hospital expansion unless it didn't have an expansion stacking diagram. If you look at this, first and second floor, as I mentioned, we'll have the ICU on the new tower. First floor will be, we're going to expand our pharmacy, our food and nutrition services, put in a new conference center. The third floor will be mechanical. That's the floor that when patients get into the elevator and they don't see 3 on the elevator, they wonder, what's going on here? What's the mysterious third floor? Well, it's mechanical. So theoretically, put it on the third floor, you push air up and down. It's a little bit more efficient in terms of your overall cost. 4, 5, and 6 will be medical surgical. They'll all be configured virtually identical to what our current setup is in the hospital. We'll shell in the 4th floor and we'll build out completely and have ready by the January 2016 the 5th and 6th floors. So that when I pointed to that slide earlier about 2019, where we're hoping to have built out and equipped the 4th floor by the time we get to about 2018, 2019. Finally, here's kind of an overview of our campus. That's what it looks like now. So if you look at what we're doing today, you'll see the orthopedic building on the corner, Sweetwater and 59. Our new bed tower is going to go between our first medical office building, which was actually the first building on our campus back in 1998, and the main hospital building right here. This is where the Heart Center is going to go. And the Heart Center, by the way, just above the Heart Center on the 2nd floor is where our operating rooms are. So we'll have a dedicated elevator between the cardiac cath labs and the 2nd floor operating rooms should we have the need for emergency surgery, which frankly doesn't happen a whole lot, but when it does, you want to be ready. And finally, and this is probably that 2019-2020 phase, if you go back and look, that's the blue, that's what we're doing now. The opportunity for us is to be able to add 2 additional bed towers here, another medical office building, expand onto the garage, and do a few other things on the campus to, enclose the 2 buildings as they grow south, so to speak, on our site plan. When I say grow south, it's not literally south, it's just south on the plan, but towards the movie theater, basically. So we'll continue to grow the campus down towards AMC Theater. That's what the building will look like, the next tower, 104 beds. Lena stayed up all night photoshopping this just for you guys. I just want to make sure you know that. I'm lying. If you look at the Orthopedic Sports Medicine building, this is the corner of 59 and here's Sweetwater Boulevard right here. So that building will go right there in the corner. No, it's not attached. It's just the angle makes it look like maybe it is, but it's not. And the Emergency Care Center will look just like that. And actually, the Emergency Care Center will be designed the same as the one that will be opening in Pearland in about a month and a half. That will be same design as the one here in Missouri City. We'll also be putting one in, where is it? In Fulshire on 1093. So we have land kind of right between the far west side of Cinco and where Fulshire starts. That's where we're putting another one of these freestanding emergency centers. So again, we're trying to put medical care closer to where folks live, and we'll continue to build the primary care component on top of this as well. Okay. Well, Sue told me I better be done prior to 1 o'clock. Sue's on our board, and thank you for being here, Sue. I appreciate that. Sue's been a very loyal board member for quite a few years now for us, so I appreciate that. But she wanted to make sure I was done. And then Evelyn, who gave me you forgot to mention that Evelyn, probably a lot of you know Evelyn Traylor. But yeah, she's giving her princess wave now. But Evelyn arranges all of our speakers bureaus and has done that for for a long time. So Evelyn and I know each other well. So if you hear from Evelyn, she might be representing Methodist. So anyway, there you go. But I'm sure many of you already know her. So questions. A lot of information about what's going on with Methodist, and be happy to answer any questions y'all might have.
Could you talk a little bit more about the migration issue? Because it seems as if focus on mobility being part of the function of special needs or services that are better served in each area or not.
Let me see if I got the question right, just so everyone hears. The question is, in terms of out-migration, what's really driving the out-migration? Is it not having the right surgical or medical subspecialties closer by, or is it really a mobility issue? I will tell you that Texas Medical Center it's an awesome location, no question about it. There's probably nothing like it in the world, and I mean that. And I don't just mean Houston Methodist. I mean the fact that you have so many world-class institutions all closely together there. That's very unusual. So no question, outstanding care provided there. I will tell you though that the vast majority of what people need can be met. Their needs can be met in the community setting. I mean, if you look at the data shows that outcomes in a community setting are just as good as they are in a medical center or academic type environment. I think I would say that there are certain things that should always stay in a large academic center. Things like transplant, I would say, would always be best there. There are certain conditions that you might only have a certain medical subspecialist that treats only whatever that happens to be in the Texas Medical Center, which you might not find in any community surrounding Houston. So there's definitely still a need for folks to go into the medical center. But frankly, most of that 37%, it's not that. It's stuff that could be done closer to home. So this is how I look at it. I've been, someone asked me, are you from Texas? Yeah, I'm from Texas, but I've only been in Houston or the Houston area for 13 years now. My take on it is that as Fort Bend County, for instance, has grown, people had relationships with physicians in Houston for years, and those relationships continue. And once people get a doctor, they typically stay with that doctor unless they get mad at that doctor. But by and large, it's that comfort. This doctor knows me, they take care of me, I know their office staff, it becomes a very close relationship. And I think what's happened over the years is that people stick with that. But people moving into the community, more and more are not going into the Texas Medical Center. And people that have lived out in this community that have gone into Houston for care are not doing that as much as they used to, and they're staying in Fort Bend County rather than going into town. So I see it as it's a migration. It'll continue to change. But I'll tell you what, the Texas Medical Center will be reinventing itself over the next 10 years because it has been this mix of academic medicine and, frankly, primary care, kind of the basic stuff that you can get at almost any hospital. And they're trying to figure out how do we begin to be truly a tertiary and quaternary type hospital rather than be where people go for that almost primary care. Does that answer your question? Probably way more than you wanted to hear. Yes.
Hold on for a second. Let me bring in a microphone.
You showed your boundaries for your PSA. I'm just wondering about the rural communities west of Wharton County. Do you guys have a PSA for those rural communities, which I understand are the ones that really have those gaps in needs?
We actually have relationships with physicians who go out to some of those communities to the west. And I'm not sure which ones in particular you're mentioning, but for instance, we have physicians who go out to Eagle Lake. We have physicians who pull in from Columbus. I think maybe not the same direction, but Cuero. Really, if you go back to that one slide, and this is just primary service area, because really primary service area is only 80% of your admissions. So if you look at the other areas surrounding that, there we go. You'll notice that our secondary service area down El Campo, Bay City, Matagorda area, out towards the Brazoria, out this way, we still draw quite a few patients from those areas. And Methodist as a whole is looking at how do we how do we align or create relationships with physicians locally in these various communities so that we can take care of them locally, keep them well, keep them out of the hospital, so that they don't have to go into a hospital for care. Because it's going to be very expensive in the future to have facilities built out in a rural setting. It's just going to be, economically, it's going to be harder and harder. So the key is, well, how do you get people to take better care of themselves? How do you get people to build relationships with specialists who can manage chronic conditions like heart disease or diabetes or whatever it might be? So our focus is, how do we begin changing how we think about care and keeping people well, keeping them out, not just being there when they need us when something bad happens. And that's kind of been the mindset in healthcare is, okay, we build all this infrastructure to, respond when you need something acutely or emergently, but there's not as much infrastructure built on just keeping you healthy to begin with. So that is part of healthcare reform, frankly. There are incentives in there, and so hospitals are looking at how they can continue to improve on that. It's a great question, though. Yeah, we think about it all the time because there's so many communities that we draw from. It is. And actually, we are looking to partner with smaller rural hospitals that have a need for affiliation. And we're actually currently in discussions with a number of smaller rural hospitals right now. Yes, sir. No, I think it's working hand in hand. As a matter of fact, Kaylin and I will be heading over to Access Health sometime in the next 30 days. We're trying to work out our schedules because Access Health is actually a beneficiary of resources from the Methodist Hospital Foundation. So we see the opportunities there. Access Health is not just a I forget, I was talking to someone the other day from Access Health, and they're looking at how they rebrand themselves, how they look at themselves, and how the community looks at them, and they're beyond what the community has historically considered them to be. And so how do you build upon those relationships and figure out how it's a win-win for the patient and for the center like Access Health? Yes. So the question is, what type of care is provided for patients who don't have any insurance? So that's what I was saying. They're kind of in that uninsured or underinsured category. We currently provide about 6% of our business would be for patients who currently have no funding at all. And so that's something that we provide through our community benefits program. We have a financial assistance program that effectively doesn't put them at risk if they're incurring bills beyond what they can afford to pay. So we'll work with them, adjust those bills based upon their income levels. So we do some of that already. And there's actually a requirement in the state of Texas that hospitals that are nonprofit, such as Methodist, Memorial Hermann, St. Luke's, et cetera, that they fill that community need to take care of people who don't have any insurance. And so we all do that through a variety of ways. One of the ways we do it is through funding, partial funding for organizations like Access Health. Part of it is we're just there to provide services when people need us acutely or emergently. And so that's about, like I said, almost 6% of our business. And it's gone up as most hospitals have seen that across the greater Houston area. Houston actually has one of the higher, or Texas actually has one of the higher uninsured rates in the country. So definitely a need. Affordable Care Act, I think, can help with some of that. It probably needs to be restructured to a degree because there's things in there that, frankly, from the hospital side and the physician side, we look at it and we go, that's never going to work. But, that's when you have a bunch of politicians trying to figure out how to get things through, and they don't understand the details behind how they do it. And that's why we have to build relationships between the folks who serve the country and the healthcare structure to figure out how do we do this in a way that's cost effective. Because you can make people get access. You can make them be covered through mandates, but access to that is the tricky part. So that's where we have to work together with our elected officials to figure out, okay, well, it looks good on paper, but what's reality? Right now, if you try, I'm sorry, I'm on my soapbox now. Right now, if you're a Medicare patient and you're trying to find a physician in Fort Bend County that accepts new Medicare, I'm just talking Medicare, I'm not talking affordable care. If we talk about a new Medicare patient, it's hard for that person to get in to see a doctor because the doctors don't want to take that Medicare patient. Now, I thought I saw you out of the corner of my eye shaking your head. Maybe I mistook that, but the Councilman Wyatt, I know you probably saw some of that. He's a former healthcare executive. That's very true. It's tough for people to get in. People call me all the time saying, "Hey, can you get me in to see so-and-so?" Well, I don't know that I can because the payment rates are not good. So it's a bit of an upside-down model, frankly. So, that's why we work with our elected officials like Representative Reynolds to figure out how do we work something out that gets people to provide the access that we need. I'm sorry.
No
I got me on my soapbox. I told you not to do
That's
that.
fine. It's a two-part question. All this expansion, how many jobs do you think you're going to create? And also, I've been told Missouri City has a lot of people working for you already, so maybe you could expand on that.
Yes. Significant, actually. For instance, Lena, Robin, both work for Methodist. They live in Missouri City. I don't know what percentage of our employee population actually lives in Missouri City versus Sugar Land, Richmond, Rosenberg, et cetera. But it's significant, there's no question. I would guess that it's probably close to the same level as what we have in Sugar Land, to be honest with you. In terms of the first part of your question, jobs. Roughly 350 full-time positions over the next few years. So it's a significant improvement in terms of just full-time employees, full-time equivalents. Other questions?
I want to ask you, what were you going to do to distinguish yourself from the other radios?
So the question is, what are we going to do to distinguish ourselves from the other emergency care centers in the area? We're just going to outcompete them. We're going to do a better job. Specifically, so a little bit of a smart alecky response, and so I apologize for that, but in reality, what do people want when they go into the emergency department? They want to see the doctor as quickly as they possibly can. So we will have board-certified, emergency-trained physicians in our emergency department here in Siena, same as what we have in our hospital, and our goal is to make sure that people get to see them as quickly as possible. The primary satisfier, and you know this, is how quickly did I get to see my doctor, and then how quickly am I able to leave that center? Because expectations that people have are very high. They want to get in and out as quickly as they possibly can. But yeah, we'll be on all the managed care plans and all of that. So there are some of these freestanding centers, freestanding emergency centers that aren't hospital-based, let me make sure I word this right, that use what's called an out-of-network model. And I know you know what that is. It's basically a model where they are not in network with any insurance plan. And so what they do is you come in and they only charge you what you would have been charged if you were in network. So they will still bill you, but if you complain about it, then they'll write off the difference. It's basically how it works. No, ours will be a network, yeah. We don't do anything unless it's a network. But some of these free centers, they feel they can get more money. See, this is an advantage. I'm back on my soapbox now. Frequently, physician-owned ventures like an emergency center, an imaging center, a surgery center, they use an out-of-network model because they can get more money out of the insurance company than the hospital can through a negotiated rate. So the rate that we get paid, doesn't matter who you are, what we did for you, it's the same rate no matter what it was. These centers go out of network, and so a lot of times what they do is they can get more than what the contracted rate is. That's why they set up as out of network. So, got on my soapbox. I don't care who you talk to from Memorial Hermann, St. Luke's, HCA, whoever it is, they will tell you the same thing. That's a frustrating model for us to compete with.
That's why I asked that question.
Yeah. You were setting me up for a good one, so hit that one. Yes.
Well, I'll get on the soapbox. Back to the slide that shows the new buildings that you're doing at Shaw.
The pictures?
There's a new building. No, back to the map. The map. There you go. So you mentioned that the new park area is going into
Yeah.
So that appears to me to be very close to something that is wonderful within Fulton County Medical area of the hospital, whereas we have to go in once a year for often mammograms and it's like a spa and
Right.
other places where we can go. So will that interfere with that? Will that move? Like that area of the hospital?
You have a good eye. So yes, it will interfere for a period of time. We are actually, that right there is not currently parking. We are putting that parking in because on an interim basis, we are going to have women go across this walkway, which is where our ambulances come in, to go into the breast center, which is right over here. That's a short-term situation only while we're going through the construction, because the construction crews will need that entire footprint in order to get the cath labs up. What we'll do then is we will completely change this entrance right here so that it can better accommodate patients coming in for either spine center or for breast center care. So that's a short-term thing, but longer term, this will be redone so that people can still park right there, just walk right into the breast center. So very good eye.
You guys know that as well.
Oh, well, thank you. Your check's in the mail. But thank you, seriously, I appreciate that. So Sue's telling me time out. Yes, ma'am.
But I'm here. Right. Let's give him a hand. Oh, we have, yeah.
I know, too.
Here. This one's what Stacy's giving me instructions here. She just told me that there's, I think, a couple of other events going on today that probably has our crowd less than what it normally is, but we want to thank those of you who chose this event to attend today to hear what's happening in our city, and especially what Methodist is bringing into our city, because we're excited about it. Those of us on city council have gotten beat up so badly over the years for letting our hospital leave, which we didn't. That was a choice they made. But anyway, we're glad to get some facilities here. And, you know, we were talking earlier, and I have to give credit to the guys that ride around in those square trucks that are called EMS people. You know, it doesn't matter, you know, probably where they take you. Those guys are going to save your life when they come to your house. And so being that they're 5 minutes away or 15 minutes away probably is not as important as it is to having those guys in those emergency vehicles save your life first and then transport you to wherever you need to be. So we're glad that you're here. We're anxious to see the opening in July, and we'll be there to help you cut the ribbon. So thank you all for coming in, and thank you for coming to the city. We do have some door prizes, but before I give the door prizes, I'm going to give our speaker his prize. You're going to do it? You're Vanna? Okay, Vanna. Take over, Vanna.
Mayor Owen is special to me. We just want to say thank you to you for being our first presenter for 2014. And also if Kaylin and Lena could join us up here.
They're the ones who really run the hospital.
Yes. They all both were terrific in helping us to set this up. And I also want to give a special acknowledgement to Councilman Ellicat, who also participated in helping us to put this together. We understand that you enjoy golf.
That doesn't mean I'm good at it.
That doesn't matter. It's okay. So we have a special framed photo of the Quail Valley Golf Course entrance for your office, and then we have a Missouri City framed photo for y'all's facility when you open. And I'm going to show them.
Yeah. It was either that or a picture of Robin, and we figured you probably wanted to see that.
Look at that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Look.
That's great. I was trying to display this on the wall.
And there is also a golf foursome certificate in there, and we hope you come back and play golf with us and continue to participate in our community. And then we have some lovely gifts for you ladies too. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.